Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Trap on the Boomer Buzz channel, Bears podcast by a Bears fan. I'm your host, Terry, and today recapping our first loss against the Indianapolis Colts. Once again, go to speedpipe.com if you got a question or comment you want on the show. Also go to Patreon, check that out. If you like the content, consider supporting. All right, so we lost to the Colts 19-11, but I think we can all admit that really, this game was 19-3. I think morale-wise, there's something. I mean, and we were close, but that game was kind of over. Momentum-wise and everything else, I think that game was kind of over. So while it might look close in the points, I think it's more about the momentum and the morale, being able to score a touchdown and put up something more than a field goal, because that really doesn't feel good for any team on any level. But obviously, statistically, this is called the number one defense. Not sure that I would look at them that way, but obviously a good unit. And either way, not putting up any touchdowns, that would have really deflated a team that's supposed to turn around and play on a short week. So good job there, but that game was kind of over. Now, overall, obviously we have Nick Foles making his debut, but overall this was, especially within the last 2 years, what you would have called a kind of clash of the Titans, a similar team, being able to play ball control. I wouldn't necessarily say ground and pound, because that's not our style. That's more the Colts style, but definitely a ball control type team on offense with a really stingy defense. And so very similar styles. You thought that's how it would have played out. But at the end of the day, they were more efficient at that style than we were. And really, that's how it's been this whole year so far. While we want to play good defense and continue to put our offense in situations where they have a short field or they just need to control the ball, we haven't done that since 2018. And so we're putting our offense in positions where they have to not only just be efficient, but they actually got to be pretty prolific in order to maintain the flow of the game. And we haven't done that. I mean, we haven't even been that great efficient-wise. But again, Foles came in, so it was hopes that would look different. And the third down struggles continued. Even before we brought in Foles, as I mentioned with the offense, it seems like those first two drives this year we found a rhythm, but then after that we continued to have third down troubles and staying on the field. And so there was a little bit of that this game as well. And then defensively, I thought we did our job. We didn't necessarily get the takeaways. There's definitely stuff we left on the field, but we did our job in the run game much better than we have before. Eventually, it accumulated to a pretty solid day for them. But looking at those rushing totals, what you don't see is the number of negative plays they had in the run game, which the defense kind of has. So overall, I mean, it was just which team played cleaner basketball and which team was more efficient on offense. And so the Colts pulled that one out. So offensively, I got to give us a C, and that's generous, to be honest with you. Yeah, maybe even a C minus. Like, we rushed for less than 40 yards. Our line looked bad. Let me say this, and hear me out. I have, to a degree, not over the top, but to a degree, I've defended Charles Leno, because people like to talk in hyperbole, as far as like, all the jokes, all the things they say about Charles Leno. And obviously I know when we're joking, but I don't like hyperbole because people say it so much, people start to believe it. Do I think the man shouldn't be in the NFL? No. Do I think he's complete trash bag? No. Are there some qualities that he possesses as an offensive lineman that are good? Yes. But I can no longer consider him a starting caliber. Now, most of the time I hear people talking, they talk about the contract. That's got nothing to do with me. I didn't pay them. I'm not working contracts. I'm just talking about what I see on the field. And for a while, I always said, like, he's a very middle of the road tackle. Now, the man made the Pro Bowl, and I was just like, wow, how? And then everybody's like, well, you a hater, man. Are you a Bears fan? Were you hating on Trubisky and Leno making the Pro Bowl? Well, now we kind of see why. That doesn't make sense. But anyway, I'm just like, it's a middle of the road tackle. And now there's a couple things that go into that. Number one, the NFL has a lack of tackle talent. And if you paid attention to me, there was a big deal this year about the draft because we've had the tackle prospects that we haven't seen in a long time. And so it's a big deal to see how these young tackles come into fruition because we might have 3 to 4 legit franchise tackles, and that would be a big swing in what we've seen in the NFL. So lack of tackle talent already, just like quarterbacks, makes him more valuable just by position. But then the second thing is draft position. I talk a lot about this with bust. People say, they're a bust for a second overall pick. You should do this. For a top 10 pick, you should be this. They didn't draft themselves. And so just like people put undue pressure on high draft picks as if it's their job to live up to that status, people also give undue credit to lower round picks when they do better than expected. Like, just because Leno did better than we thought he would, that doesn't mean he's all of a sudden an all-pro or Pro Bowl tackle. And so him getting paid was a factor of those two things. But let me just say this. No, he's not even serviceable as a tackle this year. Last year, not great, but not this bad. This right now, just completely stopping his feet. Justin Houston had him completely exposed. No, he's a good player. I know Justin Houston was at once an elite pass rusher, but he's not that anymore. And even if he was, that's no excuse just not to bring any type of technique, type of effort. It has been very bad. Last year, along with some other people, Leno was a big reason our run game suffered. This year, with the Fetties stepping in, with the tight ends being a lot better, Leno's kind of out there on the island. Well, him and Massey, as far as the scapegoats, they have looked bad. And on simple things like an inside zone, your tackle should not be ruining a play. And so then today, just not even close to containing anybody. And it's not like you are overpowered. It's not like they ran around you. You just have horrible technique. And so, I don't think we have great options, but at this point, I'm talking about moving on from Leno. I don't know if you're going to pick somebody up right now, but whether that's trading him in the offseason or just letting him be a backup, whatever. And I think he could be a solid swing tackle backup. But, I've been saying for years we need new tackles. But really, like, at this point, having him on the field is a liability. Even for the athleticism he has, he doesn't use it. And so I'm just completely over that. But overall, with the offense, obviously you saw the chemistry issues. Some people think that this was just going to be an overnight thing. There was definitely chemistry issues. I wasn't thrilled with some of the play calling. Obviously, we don't run a lot. We weren't effective, but it's weird to me how often we play action when we don't even run the ball like that. And I think, they got to realize defenses are not going to be fooled by that. And you won't get the shots you should. I think we've gotten some plays off that, but it's not going to be a consistent thing. And it seems like that's all we have right now is play action and then a shot. But I'm fine with that. Attacking the middle, or I'm fine with attacking the middle because that's what the NFL is right now. I'm not sure sometimes Foles keeps trying to throw it to the perimeter, but like against a team like this that is solid, like no overwhelming talent, but solid, really disciplined, really hungry. You can't, like, all the misdirection, the screens, all the cute stuff, it doesn't matter. If you're not able to generate any run on the ground, that's always going to be a problem. But then also, if you can't just stick to your bread and butter plays, then it's going to be tough for you. And they played us really tough. Like, the thing you got to realize, and I'll get to the defense too, is that those seconds matter. People don't think it does, but those seconds and those inches matter. And I think just us being a little off rhythm that you saw when they got tough defense that is man to man, especially when it's tough and it's sticking to you, when you're off by a second, that really changes the results. And so on the flip side, you have Phillip Rivers, who was gaining those seconds and keeping his rhythm by staying in the pocket. But anyway, so offensively, yeah, it was not great. We'll get to the film, but I know personally, Leno, pass protection wise, it was absolutely atrocious. DeForest Buckner, we knew was going to be an issue, but really it was 90 Stewart. Wait till we get to the film. That dude was an unsung hero. He disrupted so many plays. I don't even know who he is. And so he was really the one, but Buckner too was an issue. And so, yeah, just overall, a lot of work to be done on the offensive side. And again, they scored that touchdown at the end, but for all intents and purposes, we didn't really score this game outside of that field goal until like the last minute. So, a lot of work to be done there. And again, not just even putting the ball in the end zone, but also being efficient with our third downs and keeping drives alive, which, you know, has been a conversation for the last 3 years. So anyway, defensively, I give them a B. They play really well, but Phillip Rivers just outdueled them a couple times and really kept them in this game. As I said, like one thing, because people try to find issue when I talk about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and players like that. And it's to say that it's not to say you can't be effective. I always said that. I'm not saying they can't be effective, but they're never going to be those top tier quarterbacks because the way the game of football is set up, the best, like at this top level, the best the quarterback can be to make it the toughest on the defense is when they're able to stay in the pocket and make plays, because that gives you the seconds and the inches that you need, because a second, a half a second, a tenth of a second could be the difference between a sack and a completed pass, or interception and a completed pass, or first down and a touchdown. And so when you're running around and you're doing all those things, you could be effective, but the most effective, the quickest way to carve up a defense, because covering people is not easy. And covering people for 5 seconds is not easy. Most of the time, people aren't going to be able to do that, whether it's a zone or man. And so when you're talking about getting those breaks in coverage and all that, when you're talking about hitting it in a tight window, you have to be able to stay in the pocket and make the throws, and that's what Phillip Rivers did. Because I think our defense had much better pressure than we usually do as far as movement on the D-line. Even though we didn't really get the sacks like that, we had much better movement, especially on our left side, where Quentin Nelson is on the other side, and he's pretty good. But I would say Akeem Hicks and Mac, who played, around. But for the most part, I think when we were on our left side, we were getting a lot of pressure, even though we didn't seal the deal a lot. However, like I said, since we didn't get the sacks, Phillip Rivers is one of those few quarterbacks that is really unbothered by the pressure. and can still make the throw through the pressure and still be accurate. And accuracy was big for him because he was putting the ball in places where he had receivers that could go get it. Even T.Y.'s probably their smallest receiver and known for speed, he attacked the ball and really, honestly, he mossed Eddie Jackson one time. And so you got guys that are bigger body that can attack the ball, and he just put it in spaces where they could attack the ball, and we got bodied out a lot of times. And so that's all on Phillip Rivers' ability to stay in the pocket and make accurate throws against pressure. Now in the run game, again, accumulatively, they had good spots. They had good stats because they had the spots where they needed it and they were able to be effective. But again, a lot of negative plays, a lot of penetration. I'm talking about a lot of D linemen getting off blocks. And we don't usually play that well with getting off blocks. Even Akeem Hicks, who is the best at it, a lot of times we just occupy blocks and hope that our linebackers could get downhill. But we really got off blocks today. I mean, there was one negative play. Bilal Nichols straight swimmed Quentin Nelson and blew up a zone. So we were getting off blocks. We were penetrating, which we don't usually do. And so there were definitely a lot of times we were stout in the run game. But then there were times they were able to get downhill on us, and we already know how it is with our linebackers. And once they get downhill, our linebackers aren't stopping it. So you're waiting for a safety or backside pursuit from the D-line. So we already know how that goes. And again, really, they just did it when they needed to, and especially towards the end of the game where they were grinding the timeout. And so that just accumulated to over 100 yards. Now, as far as the pass game, I already talked a little bit about Phillip Rivers. I mean, shoot, I wouldn't say exposed, but some of our players were really struggling today. And again, a good quarterback can do that for you. Also, not the sacks. I mean, the pressure's there, but for a guy like Rivers, you got to be even better than that. And so we definitely had some stops. We definitely gave the offense plenty of opportunities to be able to make it happen. But at the end of the day, it just didn't all come together. So, but I still give him a solid B. And Roquan Smith, shout out to him. He was an absolute monster today. For as bad as I feel Trevathan is playing, Roquan is really coming into his own. And I don't know how many of y'all watched the Buccaneers play earlier. Not saying he's anything like Levante David, but it did feel similar to see him all over the field like Levante was today. So he's got a lot of range. He's got a lot of speed, and I think he's picking up the intelligence as well. So that was good to see. All right, so overall, nothing too different for me. This is the type of team that I've talked about us being for a while. Definitely can compete, but we need things to go our way, especially with short fields. I think the defense left some plays out there. Obviously, Khalil Mack dropping the interception. Definitely we had some penalties that could have been avoided that kept the drive alive. So I think we left some plays out there, but the offense having to drive the ball consistently and put it in the hole, that's not going to be our strength, rather than getting those turnovers and setting us up with a short field. So we can compete. The defense can compete. They're not going to, let somebody just put 40 points up on them, but we're going to have our mistakes, and we can't always count on them to hand deliver the ball to us, and the offense has to be better. So, all right, so that's it for me. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and remember, stay up and bear down.